There lived a beautiful woman named Timmy. Timmy was known for a beautiful smile and her kindness. Her nickname was Smiler, as the villagers fondly calls her. She was a very cheerful person who always made sure that people around her were happy in her own little way. She had a little business where she weaved beautiful baskets and sold them in the Moa market. Her baskets were used for home decorations, jewelry organizers, and more. She was also popular for making beautiful baskets, known in her entire village and the neighboring villages who came to do business in Moa. The day of her marriage, all her customers came to celebrate with her. They were happy, and there were lots of food to eat. It was the wedding of the people, and it was so because of her nature of business that made her so popular, and also her beautiful smile. Therefore, they came to celebrate with her in their numbers. Her husband, Kumi, was a businessman who always traveled for business. A very gentle and humble man, he was also a kind and passionate gentleman who always stood up for the truth. He was a good man. However, a heavy sorrow weighed on her heart. She was barren, unable to bear children. She longed to hold her own children. She desired to be called mother, but they were not forthcoming. Gradually, the once very cheerful and kind Timmy started changing. She became very aggressive. She would cry all day. She became a shadow of herself. Soon, she stopped weaving. She was always at home crying. People stopped patronizing her. Sales were not forthcoming any longer. That cheerful charm was no longer there, as she had completely changed. So she stopped the weaving business and stayed at home crying. Her husband encouraged her to be patient, but she wouldn't, as she was so desperate to have a child. Soon she became the talk of the town, as it was already 5 years and there was no sign of pregnancy, nor even a miscarriage. She went to wherever was recommended by anyone. Sometimes she went to prayer houses where they would tell her to bring some money and they will fast and pray for her. Then she'll be pregnant. But after 1 year, still no sign of pregnancy. She was sometimes taken to witch doctors where she was told to bring goats, cowries, and all manner of items, yet nothing to show for it. Everyone gossiped about her in the village. It's 8 years and there was still no sign of pregnancy. She became even more frustrated. The people who were once her friend became her worst nightmare, as they regularly mocked her. They called her all manner of names. Some said she has given her kids to her spirit husband. Some said she was a witch and had donated her womb for rituals, and that's why she made so much money from her weaving business. All manner of awful things were said about Timmy. She kept crying day and night, but her husband kept consoling her.
I understand what you're going through, but be patient with God. He will give us children. I'm not complaining, so forget about whoever that is talking to you. Forget about whoever that is insulting you. Am I not your husband? Are they your husband?
You're not the one that is being mocked. You're not the one that is being called names. You're barely around. You go about your business activities without anyone calling you barren. But me, wherever I turn to, there is someone waiting to remind me that I am responsible for my childlessness, or that I'm a barren woman.
Am I not more than children to you? It doesn't matter if you bear children for me or not. I still love you, and that's all that matters. I believe in His own time, God will give us children, not just a child. So cheer up.
Your mother will come and call me names. Your siblings, especially your sisters, will call me a witch and a barren woman who only knows how to eat their brother's money. Please just let me be.
She kept crying. She was so frustrated and desperately in need of a child. She lost focus. She stopped believing. She lost her faith in God. She just wanted any means at all, as long as it was going to work for her. But her husband kept telling her that God's time is the best. She should be patient. She said, if God wanted me to have a child, He had 8 years to prove it. I'm done hoping and believing. Somehow, I will help myself. One day, Timi's neighbor, Anike, told her of a prophet who sees vision. She said he is a very powerful man and he can help you. He has helped a lot of women and I know he will help you. Anike assured her that this was going to be the last place she would go to, so she agreed. Timi could not sleep all through that night. She was thinking about what Anike and neighbor had told her. She was excited and afraid at the same time. But she had made up her mind to go with Anike or any other person as long as it was going to yield fruit. Pondering and wondering what Agbadi, the man Anike told her, would look like. If it will work, just like Anike had said or not. So many thoughts on her mind. She didn't tell her husband what she had discussed with Anike because she knew he would never approve of her to go with Anike. He was never in support of those places she went to, but she went there anyway without his consent. One fateful Saturday morning, as early as 6 a.m., Timi and Anike was at Agbadi's house. He told her what she came for. She was surprised.
Don't worry, this week you'll be pregnant, I assure you. I have helped several women like you, and yours won't be different. Don't be afraid. Your weeping days are over. You will carry your own child in your hands 9 months from now.
Anike and Timi looked at each other and smiled. Anike was happy for her, and Timi had the feeling that this was the very last place she would visit for a child. She knew in her heart that this was the last one and that she was going to have a child after this one. But you need to be aware of what it entails, your do's and don'ts.
Whatever it takes, I'm ready. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm fed up with this mockery, the shame, the reproach, and all the names people call me.
Okay then. Every December, you will sacrifice a goat, a dove, 5 tubers of yam, 5 bottles of Fanta, palm oil, 10 cowries, and a packet of biscuits. Is that all? For a whole year? This is very little. I can afford it on a weekly basis. Quiet! He said. You must be ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice. Are you ready? Yes, she fearfully agreed. Now listen, he said.
You will have a son, but you must never lay your hands on him or scold him, no matter what. He is a king and must be treated like a king. Whatever he does, just let him be. Whoever touches him is dead. I said he is a king and is.
She was confused and wondered what kind of king he was talking about. Lost in thoughts, Agbadi shouted, "Do you understand?"
Yes, I understand.
You better do, because your life and everyone around you depends on it.
Okay, Agbadi.
She was a bit scared, but she was determined to do whatever it takes to have a child. So she was willing to risk it despite being told of the dangers that lied ahead. So Agbadi took her to the river, told her to remove her clothes, and he made several incantations and sacrificed a goat and other items they brought for the sacrifice. Everything was said and done. They went back home. That same week, Timi became pregnant. She was very happy. She started being cheerful again. Her husband was surprised at the sudden change. She kept glowing as her beauty shone like a beacon. She told her husband she was pregnant. He was so happy and he bought so many gifts for her. Soon the news of her pregnancy went around the entire village. Some came to her house to see for themselves. Others came to mock her, but they got there and saw a beautiful woman glowing with the beauty of her early pregnancy days. She started weaving again. Those who ran away from her came back to her. She had more customers now than ever. Sales were multiplying. Business was booming. Everything seemed perfectly alright. 9 months later, she gave birth to a cute little prince. No one knows the source of the baby except Anike, who took her to Agbadi, and herself. It was a secret between the two of them alone. People came with gifts to welcome the newborn baby. He was a very cute little prince. His parents named him Zide, meaning I have a child now. Everyone who saw him loved him. Little did they know that trouble has just been born. He would cry all night, keeping his parents awake. As soon as the day dawn starts, he would sleep. He kept doing this for the first 7 months after his birth. Then he stopped. Timmy thought everything was over. Little did she know that he just got started. After 5 years, Zida would say strange things that you'll be wondering where he heard them from or who taught him. Sometimes he would call older people names, but the mom kept pleading with them that he was just a child. He probably must have heard someone saying it. One day, a neighbor flogged him on the butt because he insulted her. That same night, she slept and didn't wake up. Nobody could tell what killed her, but Anike and Timmy knew what had happened. Zida called Timmy by her name. When the husband complained, she said, "He is just a child." One night, Komi woke his wife up at the middle of the night and told her, "I don't like the way you're bringing up this boy. You're spoiling this boy. I know you had tough time. I know you went through difficult times before he came, but please, so he doesn't become a burden to us tomorrow, let's train this child up in the fear of God." "Okay, I have heard you, sir. Can I go back to bed now?" she asked. That same night, Komi had a vision where a strange woman appeared to him and gave him warning regarding Zide. "Zide might be your son, but he is a king. He is our king. He is not a child. Be careful how you talk to him. You must never lay your hands on him or scold him. You will be risking your life if you don't listen to me. Be warned. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I didn't warn you." He woke up and he was so afraid. He told his wife about this strange encounter he had. She acted surprised even though she knew exactly what he had encountered. He could not even look at Zide anymore, let alone touching him. He was wondering what kind of king he was, and he is not a child, what that statement meant. He was really disturbed. About 5 persons had died in the community because they scolded him. One woman and her son died because Zide took the son's ball, and the mother went and took it back from him and scolded him. That night, they both slept and didn't wake up. Everyone became afraid of him. He was a very mysterious and a mischievous child who caused trouble wherever he went. Everybody in the village warned their kids not to go anywhere near Timmy or her son. Komi was a very busy man who wasn't always around. He went for one business trip or the other here and there. After that encounter he had with the strange woman in his vision, he became so afraid. So he would travel out for business and would remain there for months. He was afraid of the boy. He began to suspect the deaths. They all happened at the time when they had issues with him, and surprisingly, they all died in the same manner. So he kept pondering and kept thinking. He kept connecting the relationship with the deaths and Zide. He was convinced that something was wrong with Zide, something ungodly, and he believed that his wife knew about it, and that's why she never laid her hands on him or scolded him. So he remained in his business place while he sent monthly feeding allowance for them. But he made sure he spoke with his wife every day to know how they were faring. Timi was becoming tired of Zide's behavior, but there was nothing she could do to change it. She was warned not to take him anywhere, including church, so she kept thinking. She regretted her actions and wanted to be patient, but it was too late. There was nothing she could do any longer. So she had to face the trouble she brought upon herself. The joy of motherhood became sorrow for her. Whenever Zide saw her crying, he would laugh at her and she would cry yet the more. One day, Komi sent money to Timi. He told her he was coming back that weekend with some business partners, that they needed her to prepare something nice for them, that they will be having a meeting in their house and the visitors would spend the night with them. They had spoken on Thursday night. She was so happy that her husband was coming home after 5 months, but Zide wasn't happy that his dad was coming. He hated him. Timi rushed to the market on Friday morning to get everything she needed to prepare the food for her husband and his business partners, since they were already on the night bus and were going to arrive the house very early on Saturday morning. She came back and prepared the meal, cleaned up the house. After Zide had eaten, she told him to take care of the house, that she wanted to rush down to the evening market to sell some of her baskets. By the time she returned, Zide had poured the pot of food she prepared on the floor. She was so angry. Do you know how much this food costs? Do you know how long it took me to prepare this food? Your father is already on his way and will be here with his business partners first thing tomorrow morning. How do you expect me to prepare another food for them this night? I will not spare you this time. Enough of all this rubbish. So she could no longer tolerate his evil acts. She laid him on the floor and flogged him so hard on his butt. For the first time ever, he cried and screamed. Her neighbor rushed to her house on hearing the noise. They were all surprised that she could beat him. Nobody stopped her. They said, go ahead and beat him. He needs it. So she beat him to her satisfaction that night. That same night, his people came. We warned you. How dare you lay your hands on our king? You will pay dearly for this. Useless woman.
I know this day will come, but I never knew it would be this sudden. At least, I'll be free from this horror movie you called a child. I am ready to die. Do your worst.
Enough!
I'm happy I flogged him so hard to my satisfaction for once. And he cried. He screamed. He cried so hard.
He was asked what they wanted them to do with her. He requested for her life, so she was killed on her bed. He also went back with his people, so he laid close to her and died there too, while his spirit went back with his people. By the time the husband arrived that morning, he found his wife and son lying dead. He wept bitterly. I must know what happened to my wife and son. I won't bury them until I know what killed them. So one of his partners said to him, I know where you can find answers. So he took him to his pastor, who told him everything. Your son is from the marine kingdom. He is not a child, he is a king. He wanted to experience the human world. So he came through your wife because she made herself available through her impatience. Your son has a wife and kids over there. That's why you and your wife were warned never to touch him. He told him how the wife got the son, the agreements they made with Agbadi, the yearly sacrifices, everything. However, she was tired with his behavior and she could no longer tolerate him and was fed up with his evil acts. So she laid her hands on him, which was against the oath they took. And that's why they killed her. and he also returned with them to where he came from. He said, I know you love your wife, but the people outside were not kind enough with words. She got so frustrated and did what she felt was best and the only option she had, since she didn't have the patience to wait for God's time any longer. The husband wept bitterly. I warned her about her desperation to have a child, but she wouldn't listen. He went home and buried his wife and son. She was a lesson to a lot of women who were called barren not to be in a hurry, no matter how long they waited. He mourned her for 3 years before getting married again. 1 year into his new marriage, his wife gave birth to triplets, 2 boys and a girl. They lived happily ever after. Moral lessons. Be patient. Don't be in a hurry. Never make rash decisions because of what people are saying. People will always talk. Hold on to your faith and stay positive. It is better to be slow and sure than to be fast and fall. You can't help God. Never lose your faith in God. It will come true for you.